So we join Skype now?
Yes.
How do we do that? Can you?
Well, I don't know. Who uses this? Do we just call him?
Yeah. I suppose the video link. Because you went on just... Hello. Chill. Hi. Meet the whole, all of us. You probably can't hear. Yeah, let me see. We can move the table around maybe from time to time.
Yeah.
So you're all moving that way.
I think, yeah, nice and cozy.
Okay, so everybody, this is Chu.
Hi,
Chu. From Singapore, and he is the filmmaker for Shadows with a very long, less than very long title, which actually has a relevance because we've got some information I've sent to you. So this is Ryder, who is our co-curator from the University of Essex. This is Art, who is partially our co-curator because he's works with our co-curator at SOAS. You've got an interesting PhD as well, haven't you? Very interesting. Then we've got
dive into that in a minute.
Then we've got Alex Chang here, who is our festival director. We've got our community lady here, Becky, who's from the Philippines. Unfortunately, Sharad can't join us. Then we've got Mark, who's very kindly turning things around, and he's representing the council, even though he had nothing to do with the decision. So the poor chap is right in the middle of it all. So we have to we've been kind to him. And then we've got somebody sitting out there who's from the press. She's Katie, our local press. And we've got our Trevor over there, who's, I'm just going to say he's half Filipino. And he's called a Britnoy, right?
Britnoy, yeah.
Yeah, so we have all these funny, weird terms over here in the UK.
Yes.
Now the interesting thing is that this is our first film festival, as you know, and it's about unseen, invisible banned films as well. It's also community films, or films that have been selected by the community. And we had to do this quite quickly this year because of the logistics. However, we did provide a list of films to the council because in this country, what happens is that if films don't have a BFI rating, the council has... Sorry, thank you very much. BFC rating. This is the guy, actually, you should talk to councils have to take the responsibility of rating the films. So they have, after 1 month of sitting on the list of films, decided just really on Monday to ban these 2 films, one of which is yours. And on a basis of what, Mark? What's it called? It's called plus 18R?
Sorry, apologies.
Yeah.
In Britain, there are the film classifications go up to 18, and 18 is an adult film. There's a classification above that called R18, which is restricted 18. A restricted 18 film is specifically to be shown only in places that are licensed sex premises. So you have to have So you have to have a special license, and of course, being a local theatre, we don't have a restricted R license. So the question is, what was it in the film that made them blanch at giving it an 18 certificate? Because I don't really think it should be an R18, and I'm sorry, I'm just going to make people annoyed by revealing that I have seen the screener that you sent out. So I am guessing, and I don't know this for a fact, but I'm guessing that the things that made them blanch in England was the fantasy rape, the possible lady who'd been knocked about and had blood coming from her face, and possibly the hermaphrodite character. Now I can assure you I've seen all those things in films that have been under 18 in the UK many, many times, so I don't really understand quite what it was about your film that upset them.
I don't know. It's I
as far as filmmaker, point of view, I'm trying to create a world without borders, something beyond your binary mindset of things, That's why it sort of culminates the sex in the end when you're not sure whether who is a masculine, who is a feminine.
Yes.
So it's a way for me to talk to the VFT in Singapore, say that, hey, this is not about LGBT, this is not about some straight or transgender porn, This is about two beings becoming one body, which is politically or religiously correct. If they want to scrutinize me, So, but I think they've breaked out too in Singapore, mainly because of the remember the sort of transgender looking like character with like the green veil. I think they see it as like a connotation of like a Muslim woman.
Oh, I see.
I think they're so afraid when I'm telling them that's just something symbolic, like she's walking in the woods with dignity, So the motivation was like to have someone with some spiritual element inside, and eventually connect with the kind of aspect of her soul, So it's not like I'm trying to put down any culture or any religion, But unfortunately, they see it in a very narrow way. Yeah.
I think you've touched on a couple of really lovely points there, Chu.
Yeah.
So one of them being the binary aspect of how people view art, right? So in terms of filmmaking and any sort of expression of art, so whether it's drawing art or filmmaking or theatre or music, it was designed, it was it was something made out of just organic approach without, as you say, borders. So my fundamental question really is what gives anyone here, I guess, the right to judge or deem something pornographic or too much for a Western audience when they don't strictly understand the area of expertise that they're sort of judging the film on. I think that's something that needs to be sort of discussed.
Cultural context,
yeah.
So can I actually just actually mention why I kind of put these two films together? Unfortunately, Sharad can't join us from the Philippines. The reason why I put these two films, and what struck me about these two films, were post-colonial sexual attitudes. Yep, for me, that was really the thing that came across, because I spent time with the trans community in India, and they have been very damaged. Their lives have been ruined by the British Raj. And they have been ostracized. They used to be demigods. They used to have a status in palaces, but that's all gone. And it was quite peculiar, actually, because apart from the fact that there's now a third sex category in Indian passports that was legal in 2014, on the yesterday, when we opened, India legalized or re-legalized homosexuality.
Yeah,
so that was quite, I think, significant. And so I was very interested in your idea of myth and putting it within a mythical context, because what is this mythical context we are looking at, and what does it represent to us? Because I was brought up in Singapore, so I'm, in a sense, a Singaporean community person. And what was interesting about Jungle Love as well was the way that Sharad played this track of Jesus Loves, Jesus Loves. Immediately that was, for me, Catholicism, and Spanish Catholicism as well. And so that's why I felt it was important that we had this triggering of thinking out of watching these films. Now, Art, you're going to say something, right?
Well, I was actually to address kind of what you were saying about about looking at why, if there's World Without Borders, why it's been banned here.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to note that there is a history of the West being very unsettled by Asian cinema. And we saw this very much in the 90s with the Asian extreme category that the BBFC, and it came primarily with horror films, with Ringu in Japan and those kind of films. And ever since then, the West has had this very peculiar relationship with Asian film, often because it's so intertwined with myth and local folklore, that the Western, the BBFC and the MPRA in America can't quite latch onto it. That there's something they find very unsettling about another culture and about extreme images from those cultures that they can't quite contextualize. And I wonder whether your film kind of has fallen into that, which is that when we watch it in the West without the cultural context, it could possibly merely appear as an assemblage of extreme images, ambiguous images, and disturbing images, which make people kind of panic a bit.
I think if my film has been more extreme or more transgressive, maybe it might pass off safely as Asian extreme. But I think what they are worried about, hey Chu, I don't think your film is very transgressive to start with, but yet it's not subtle, like some art house from Berlin or Cannes, or Venice. So where do you lie? I laugh, I say exactly, that's where I lie, my film defies categorization, I just make personal films. And I don't need to show you like very extreme sex or gore or transgression for the sake of maybe that French lady in the movie Raw. I'm not that good, So and I have no idea what are they so afraid about me.
But it is, as you said, that the images in this film have been seen in other films, but often in Western-made films.
But I don't really think it is just these images. There's a general fear that if you try to liberate sexuality, you also try to fight against authoritarianism, that you want to change socioeconomic structures. And we have experienced the same in the Western world after 1968, and we had the same reaction to what were regarded pornographic films, Last Tango in Paris, Blue Movie, etc., etc. And they were banned because an attack on sexuality, on liberation of sexuality, on sexuality not being linked to family values, because they were a threat to the existing structures of society. And in that sense, I see your film, and possibly even more Jungle Love, as this threat to an authoritarian society in Southeast Asia.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point. That's a point actually that helped me in terms of curating, making a decision on the curation. I'd like to bring in Becky, because Becky is not an academic, but the important thing is that she is part of the Filipino community that live here in Grace, and she was very much looking forward to seeing her Filipino film, and she even had Filipino friends lined up. They were going to join her in the auditorium here.
What a shame.
So what do you think about all this that's going on? Because you've lived in many parts of the world, Becky,
yes, I
haven't
have.
you? Yes. So you have a very global view of life.
I'm very disappointed. I'm not going to see it tonight.
Yes.
And I have the onerous task of informing those people who were supposed to be coming. One is even driving from Kent across Dartford Tunnel. QE to
It's a long way.
QE to and the other one was coming from Alicante, Spain.
Yeah, I think, I think that's a very good point, because I think community itself wants to see this. But not just the community. Obviously, it's very important for us in a way of understanding who we are and how we position ourselves, particularly with colonial history, I think. Morality has always been something that is very, very vague. And it is, I see it as kind of power tool, really, and the power structure. And I totally agree with you about the fear. The first knee-jerk reaction is it? Can it be seen? But I'm not quite sure actually why the council have decided. Do you know, Mark? Because you didn't make the decision. I know you didn't make the decision, but you, poor chap, you are part of the council.
Sorry.
And
Yes.
the council were not, the licensing department aren't here.
Yes, well, that's disappointing. They couldn't turn up to explain themselves.
Exceedingly
yes.
so.
So I think they were probably feeling a little bit guilty about the timeframes that they didn't respond to the film in. And also, they were clearly out of their depth. And
that's interesting.
having
Did they actually
spoken...
watch the film?
Yes, the licensing officer did watch it. And she said that although she rated it R18, that anybody looking for sexual perversion was going to feel very shortchanged because she watches all sorts of films that are banned and, confiscated. And so the actual process, I think that it was a little bit of a panic knee-jerk reaction by the council. I don't think anybody would have really objected to the film if it had been shown, and I think they just got caught on the back foot. And hopefully by this time next year we'll have a good relationship with them whereby we can discuss this and get the piece of paper which allows us to show any film we want. But can I ask a question? We seem to have this very bizarre situation which has been since the 60s, that more or less any sort of sexual difference is off the agenda, whereas any sort of violence, however extreme and ghastly, is on the agenda.
Yeah.
How does that fit in? How do you explain that, Rainer?
Well, I mean, sometimes it's of advantage to be old. I remember 68 and after when we argued that the private is political.
Yes.
And by having a free sexuality, not linked to bourgeois values of love, whatever that might be, we would also fight society structures. And therefore, arguing for a free sexuality is always also arguing for a free society. And that's why conservative people in power are so afraid of free sexuality, because it undermines their hold on power. But let me add one other point, which I think is different to what we saw after 68 in Europe in these two films here, and that's the role of women. Because here, all of a sudden, we have women who also take the initiative and are not just being exploited. And that is even more threatening, because it goes against the patriarchal structures. So we have this double whammy, if you so want, of liberating or liberalizing sexuality, but also with women as instigators and in the driving seat.
So you're saying that the role of women is dangerous to conventional structures?
Yeah.
Right.
To conservative societies.
Yes,
Interesting. Because you've done your PhD on Thai pornography, and I'd like to hear a little bit about that.
So my PhD was in Thai pornography. So pornography with Thai bodies in the pornography, and then Thai consumers of pornography and what pornography they watch. So I've primarily been interested in how the West deals with the Asian sexual body within the pornographic screen, and then how the Asian spectator responds to the sexualized image. And so this is, I suppose, why I'm particularly interested about how in the West, often through imagery, the East has been both fetishized but also infantilized, but simultaneously feared. It's kind of been felt the need to protect but also push away, and that's a very dominant narrative of colonialism, really.
Yeah, there's this intrinsic sort of demonization of it, which but there's also like a Western sort of pandering towards it as well, which I find just ironic, really.
I was discussing this actually, the idea of pornography with Lata, who is one of our local Assamese artists here. And I was saying, I could be wrong, right? Because I haven't done research on this, but maybe you could sort of enlighten me. I was wondering whether the notion of pornography is actually something that's emerged and developed out of Western repression, and whether or not a lot of pornography is quite fetishist in this country, I feel, rather than being something that seems to be quite natural, embracing joy, that somehow everything is hidden, is under, it has this kind of niche thing. And I remember growing up in Singapore before Lee Kuan Yew took power, and I was never, as a child, aware of these distinctions and the friction that I felt after coming to this country, which I came in '69. I felt there's this friction between in the categorization of sexual identity. I don't know what you think about that.
Well, I think people from Asia will probably be better placed to talk about it rather than me talk for you.
What do you think?
I'm not.
You are a woman. It's great.
Yes, I know, but when I was introduced to that, I was just my high school was passing through a red light street, and that was demolished now. It's been wiped off. But I hear a lot about Thailand. You see.
Yes.
THIGH, like Thailand, in Miss Saigon. Yeah. And well, I cannot condone these people that's like, doing that because it's their only means of livelihood,
But for me, it's not just even condoning or not condoning. It's like the whole Boogie Street thing. It was still around when I was a child.
I heard about Boogie Street.
It's probably, you're far too young for that, all that, It's all been so sanitized now. But it's Boogie's Junction, which is shopping malls all over the place. But Boogie Street itself was a place that was very free. I was warned about it as a child, but I was not forbidden. That's a different thing. I was not forbidden to go and explore, but I was warned about it. So I feel that Singapore has changed so much as well in terms of the straitjacketing of life in general. When I go back to Singapore, I just feel everybody is like packaged in like a piece of fish in a cellophane that's sold in the supermarket. I mean, we don't have markets anymore, proper wet markets. I mean, there are still a few, but they don't rate, actually, I don't think, in what I remember. But everything is so sanitized.
Including Boogie Street, which of course is now a touristy kind of stop, isn't it?
Yeah, but it doesn't even have the ancient... I mean, they're not even marketing it's heritage.
Right.
So what, sorry, was Boogie Street a red light district?
Yeah.
Yeah.
More or less. And it still is more or less. I mean, you can still...
It's very less.
And
Yes,
but it's interesting.
What happens in Boogie Street, Chu?
But it's what you said about the...
Oh, I think the sound's gone off.
Oh, the sound's gone off.
The sound's gone off. Oh, we can't hear you, love.
Can't hear you.
Can you hear us? Yeah, you can hear us.
Okay, we can't hear you.
But we can't hear you. What's happened? Shall we reconnect?
Should we try and call again?
Yeah, let's try and call again.
Oh gosh, we'll try and call again. Oh wait, say something? No, you can't. Let me just try.
I'll be interested to hear what he says about Boogie Street. Hello? No, we still can't hear you. It's probably from you, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's your connection somewhere.
Or maybe take the microphone out.
Yeah.
Unplug the headphone.
It's the middle of the night. There's no way it could be loud.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
We can
That's
hear
it.
you now.
Super.
Okay, I just hope my voice is loud enough.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Super.
Damn
Super.
loud.
Thank you.
Pretty
Yes,
damn
fine.
loud.
Alright. Okay. So like I was saying, Boogie Street has turned into a shopping district.
Yes, okay.
Totally sanitized.
Yes.
And compartmentalized, industrialized, commercialized, like our national cinema. We always joke, right? It's like it's either you go the Eric Koo way or you go the Anthony Chen. Like my kind of cinema, it's like personal cinema. So they always tell me, Chu, you're gonna be more transgressive, you know, so that maybe we can slot you in somewhere, so that you make a point, you know. But I was just lamenting. I said, hey, how about love years, you know? If someone like Love Years is able to, you know, create his own form of cinema in real time, you know, how about me, who refuse to be categorized, who wants to embrace sexuality like every day, like a mundane, but yet with some mythical element, you know, why not, you know? But I guess it's quite difficult to categorize me, you know. And coming back to the thing of liberation, you know, that's why I sort of poke fun at them and say, hey, let's have a PLF, Photographic Liberation Front.
Did you expect your film to be banned?
Sorry?
Did you expect your film to be banned?
For a while, I was very positive because for it to be programmed, I thought it's like, wow, it's a miracle. Because I just tried my luck, you know, because I mostly rejected, you know.
You're talking about the Singapore International Film Festival, right?
Yes, yeah. So that's why I'm just happy. So maybe I thought it had changed a little bit. And we even went up to the conference with the Board of Film Censors. But that's the part where they start firing me questions about whether I'm poking fun to the group of people or religion, you know, or race or ethnic groups, you know. I was just so lost. Yeah.
So we had a Thai film. We have a Thai film for Insects in the Backyard that was banned a couple of times. And can you tell us a little bit about the history of that film? Do you know about it?
Yes, this was a Thai film from about 2012. 2012, called Insects in the Backyard by a transgender Thai filmmaker. And it's, from a Thai perspective, it's kind of produced to hit every hot button in Thai society. And you can almost kind of play, you know, Thai culture offence bingo and tick it off as the film goes through. And it was a deliberately provocative film. And from a Western reading, you kind of think, well, this was never going to pass, and it had full frontal male nudity and prostitution with high school students wearing, you know, tamasat outfit, the Oxford Cambridge of Thailand, and drug taking and every possible kind of thing. And the filmmaker kind of kept trying to resubmit slightly edited versions. But it was never quite clear why she'd made such a provocative film in that context in which to push against the Thai state, which I suppose is why I was asking whether you knew it was going to be banned and how much you envisaged the potential banning of your film to be a political statement in itself. So with Insects in the Backyard, I always argued that there were things in there that were deliberately going to get it banned, so the filmmaker could then say, see, they're banning my film. And that was a political point in itself.
Actually, yeah, thanks for bringing this up. Actually, I felt I already self-censored myself quite a bit. A lot of those so-called sex sequences were shot using 4K. So basically, you see no holds barred, you know. But when I edit, I crop it down to 720p, and so everything was like resized and, you know, pan zoom, so that you could hardly see the genital, you know. Right. So what to show them at the dance between 2 or 3 bodies, you know, the human connection, the zest, you know, the flesh, you know, the connection, you know, and I thought, wow, finally, you know, thanks to 4K, you know, I can do this. But still, I think it's still too much, and I'm just like baffled, you know. Yeah.
But in fact,
I really think this is my least hardcore film so far ever. Yeah.
Really? But actually, Insects was almost a victim, because I know Mark was having. You said there might be some issues in it as well. And that was the schoolgirl one.
Yeah.
That you're talking
Yes,
about.
yes.
School-age children.
I mean, they didn't have any problems with insects. They said it was fine, and it's a rather lovely film. The only elements that I thought might be problematic was the prostitute dressed, in her schoolgirl outfit, basically.
So who is the council trying to protect? Because these classifications are, theoretically at any rate, meant as protection. So who are they thinking they are protecting by classifying 2 films as R18?
There is a leaflet from the BFC.
I've looked at it and it doesn't give me any answer whatsoever with regard to these 2 films.
Okay, right. I think that the one is non-consensual sex. That's one of the things that kicks off.
There was no non-consensual sex in either of the 2 films that were banned by the council.
That's exactly right. There was an attempt at non-consensual sex where the couple wake up in the jungle and he tries to jump on top of her and she says no.
Exactly.
So I didn't think that counted, although they were naked. There was no close-ups, gratuitous close-ups. There was a scene where a woman was strangled, and violence against women is a big problem. There was a scene where somebody looks as though they've been murdered, and again, that's violence against women, which can't be shown in British cinema. In this film, I think the issue of the hermaphroditic person who had breasts and a penis would probably worry them about the issue of kinky sex, that it was some kind of specialist niche thing.
Yeah, but who are they going to protect with their decision?
I don't think they took it that far intellectually. I think they simply looked at the guidelines and decided that hit that
so
button.
So kinky sex under British prudish Victorian values is still something that is a no-no. So basically Britain is on the same level of development as Singapore and the Philippines.
I think we've reverted because...
yeah, that's what I think.
Yes.
Well, that's the point.
I can answer that from the BBFC's point of view. I'll just respond very directly. So I actually got a job with the BBFC. I did. 3 years ago, I got a job with the BBFC as a film rater. I didn't take it up. So I had to know very much about this. But the BBFC, every 5 years, they do a consultation where they send out thousands and thousands of... sorry, I put my back to you. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
Thousands and thousands of consultations as to what people think should be censored and shouldn't be. So the BBFC argue that they don't set the guidelines, the public does. Okay. Now, what the BBFC have found constantly over every single consultation they've done, and what many of us working in kind of sex research and sexuality research has found, is that people that respond to those consultations always have almost exactly the same answer, which is, well, I don't need protecting. But my neighbour does. My child does. My grandchildren do. And the problem with that is that the BBFC still has to follow that. It is legally bound by its statutory duties to follow the results of its consultation. So what we've found is that people are less concerned with violence after the violent video games go and the video nasties of the 1980s and early 90s. They're less concerned with violence, which is why more and more violence is being allowed into the films and at lower ratings. So you get more and more violence at 12, at 15. But actually, people are getting more and more concerned about sex and about access to sex. And we see this in a kind of cultural, the porn panic, that kids as young as insert age here, the Daily Mail headline, watching kind of hardcore pornography.
Yeah, but that was never the issue here. All films were already rated as suitable for 18 and over only. So the issue for me is the R18. It's not the 18. We can leave that aside for a moment. Why is the council going for R18, and who do they think they are protecting? Are they protecting themselves?
Well, I don't know. I don't really think that they would enter into that level of intellectual argument. They simply had a set of guidelines, and they followed the guidelines because there was a little bit of a panic.
Well, that's the thing. It brings up that point, right? Yeah. So whoever's making these decisions, who aren't equipped or aren't ready or aren't prepared to enter an intellectual argument or debate with regards to rating such films as R18 and giving a justifiable answer, that begs the question of why are you in that job?
There is an argument against that, though, because the flip argument of that, of course, is only someone with a PhD in film studies.
Pornography.
Or pornography.
Hey, look, it's a very specialist subject. Maybe you should have taken that job.
I shouldn't have. I don't actually agree with what the BBFC do.
Sure.
Actually, but, there is an argument to be made that actually it should be the common man that makes those decisions, that actually it shouldn't be an intellectual exercise. The famous argument in the US about what is obscenity, which is upheld by the High Court, which is I know it when I see it.
Yeah, I get that, because it can bring up a sense of like I know better, that whole thing of I know better. But fundamentally, on a broader spectrum, art is to be delivered to the masses as one, entertainment, and two, education. And really it's like with sex and sexuality, if we're not going to learn it from arts then and cultivate our own sort of interpretations of what it means, what's the point?
Well, also, children are excluded, and they had always been excluded with
Absolutely.
the 18 rating for every film.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I can see what you're saying, that the common man should decide what is pornography.
Well,
I'm just kind of overstating it a bit. But it's the same as what happens at universities now. That students, with their student satisfaction, determine what they are learning at university. And somehow, call me old-fashioned, I probably am, that doesn't work. Art has the task to test the boundaries and to take us to boundaries that we hadn't really thought about before.
Yeah.
And we might object to I object to some of what your film is doing, but I appreciate that it is taking me to objecting to what it is doing and thinking about it.
Yeah.
And that's what art should do.
Absolutely.
And what it should, and where the boundary to pornography is the element of exploitation. Exploitation of usually women, but in gay pornography it's also of other usually younger gay men. And I couldn't see that element of exploitation, rather the opposite, in both Shadows and also Jungle Love.
Yes, I'd agree.
And that's, sorry, I'm looking at you.
Yes, I know. I wish
I'm very delighted to hear that you don't feel exploited, because I was talking to my staff and said, at the end of the day, I really want you guys to enjoy yourself, like they're really there to become real part of the action. And just borrowing a bit from the Feminist Porn Manifesto, they always center upon the female pleasure, So I think for that part, I think it's the quintessential, like the pornographic revolution. It's the human satisfaction of connecting to one another, without getting punished at the end.
Can I ask whether you intended your film to be arousing at any point?
Actually, right, I usually, occasionally I get I get a hard on, But I'm very happy. Mostly that I don't feel it's like that any true, film. In fact, I started thinking, why did you set me thinking? I said, yeah, it's supposed to be that you thinking, that you feeling, but maybe not so much on the growing level, And I want to have a discourse, especially this one. Why did I submit? Because I really thought that things have changed, And since the new management took over in SGIFF in Singapore, I thought, time, I surfaced for my underground filmmaking, and I want dialogue. I want to interface with the new age, new generation of filmmakers and talents, and say, look, this is it, I'm enough of being the crazy guy, of Singapore, I'm normal in many ways that I want to make friends and start a dialogue, but unfortunately, I think they're afraid to start dialogue about sexuality in cinema, because like you, if this film was streamed, there will be Q&A like this. I'm so grateful tonight, Can you imagine we have Q&A like this in Singapore, and then we have open floor to the audience? My God, And I feel that will kept one. Finally, in Singapore cinema, two major change, alright? It doesn't become fast at the end. It's just a comedy. If it's a sex in the cinema, Singapore cinema, it turns to a fast at the end. Or number two, you see the girl being punished, you know? The girl is going to walk miserably to the sunset, or maybe she will die, or she go mad, she become a fiend, you know? Ching, psycho, you know? Like, I'm so tired of that, you know? I said I want a girl to look into the horizon and able to look into us and say, there'll be tomorrow, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe it's yeah.
So, what, Becky, being a woman, what do you feel about that?
What I want to address is that, FYI, you're hermaphroditic. In psychiatry, there is a man with boobs. See, it's a condition called Klinefelter syndrome. So I don't know why the issue is. There is an issue because it's condition. The person was born with it. It's inherent in the person. Man with boobs.
My actress, her stage name is Umi Yushi, right? You saw in the movie, the one in the green veil. She likes who she is, and she does have some masculine traits, but she as a woman, and very proud, very dignified.
It is a natural thing for these people, really, the men with boobs. I studied because I have a profession in psychiatry, so I knew it. So I don't know why there is such issue, Maybe they couldn't stand the fact that I be told the Sang-Nila Ukama. Have you guys been to Sentosa?
I have. As it's been changing over the years, it's got worse and worse and worse. It's terrible now. Anyway, what I'm interested in is that you've got in Thurrock a highly qualified, intelligent Filipino lady here who used to be a psychiatrist, and she's being almost dictated to by the council. You, lady, can only watch these films. Now, can we put that question to the council?
Well, of course you can put any question you like to the council. The question is whether you'll get an answer or not.
Well, we pay our council tax.
Yes.
They are kept there because of our council tax.
Yes.
They're supposed to provide a service to residents and not a disservice.
Yes.
Would this be qualified as a disservice, do you think?
Oh, I can't answer for the licensing department.
But I think that is a very interesting thing. And I think maybe we should put that into the paper as well. I'd like to find out, as a recent resident of Thurrock, whether the council is there to serve us or not to serve us.
Yeah, but who is us? They say they serve the majority, those who elected them. And they back, in the same sense that the BBFC is going out for their consultation, they back exactly that decision.
So that's exactly what we'd like to know. Who are they serving?
Exactly, and who are they protecting? But I think we need to be more aspirational.
Sure.
We need, both in education and in the arts, we need to be more aspirational.
Yes.
They both need to challenge us.
Yes.
And the council is dumbing down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And sorry if I now sound rather conspirational, but they do it for a reason. And the reason can only be to keep the existing structures in place, to keep people from asking critical questions. Because once one thing is being changed, then everything is seen as being, at least having the potential of being changed. And we've seen the backlash. I mean, I'm a Europeanist, both by profession and also obviously by ethnicity. We've seen this in the West now happening as well. It is no coincidence for me that the US Supreme Court, very conservative in nature, actually legalized equal same-sex marriage, because it co-opts gay couples, LGBT couples, into the existing structures. So this is serving the structures of the existing society, but every other kind of relationship, like the ones portrayed in Jewish film, are now being ostracized even more.
To take the place of the gay community that they used to ostracize. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's happening with Thurrock Council's decision as well, whether it was consciously or non-conscious.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the danger. And that's where there needs to be more outrage against these kinds of decisions.
And there also just needs to be more of a coherence between these people who are making decisions and the individuals and the filmmakers who are making the art. Because fundamentally, we have one job as artists, right? Which is essentially to hold a mirror up to society, right? And just be there like, well, this, you feel these things, whether they're suppressed or not. Like, there is inklings of that. It's not so binary as good, bad, gay, straight. It's not that binary anymore.
Right.
We should be moving forward, but instead we seem to be just trickling back with decisions like this.
Yeah. And so what's interesting for me is that why Alex and I decided to have this film festival is because when I moved into Thurrock, I was appalled at the lack of diversity in the cultural landscape. And I was wondering where I had just done an oral history of the Nepalese, where these Nepalese were, and I'm finding the Sikh Gurdwara, where all the Sikhs hang out, and yet there doesn't seem to be any mingling. So I thought one of the things that's very important, most important thing, is to try and create these vehicles where people can come together, and the film festival is actually one of those. It's its first year, and I'm actually very glad that this has happened, because now we have this platform where we actually debate, and what you said about aspirational is so important. So I want to thank Mark, because he is an interface of the council and the people. And he's been very, very fair, and he's been very, very supportive for us, because he runs the theatre, and this is where our home is. In terms of the festival, this is where our home is. So I hope that we can continue to develop this debate, and we must get the council down here to discuss these things. They can't just hide away behind a locked door.
After a month of sitting on it.
Yeah. So I invite the council to come out and debate with their residents and be relevant to their residents. And I think maybe, unless you've got anything more to add, I think we should end it on that high, because I think this is a high, and this is looking at a positive approach to this whole question.
Let's
There
go with
is
that.
an Asian association, Thurrock Asian Association.
Yeah, but they're not the council.
No, they're not the council.
Yeah,
But what I'm
yeah.
saying is it's they're trying to do this unity in diversity.
Okay, so where are they? They could be here today. So we need to invite them. We have to go out. and
I
say
am
come.
with them.
Okay.
I am
So
TA.
sorry. Thank you.
I'm one of them.
Are you? All right. Okay.
Well,
that's
not the board.
Right.
Yeah, the council do attend their AGM yearly.
Yeah, but that's quite a different matter.
But that was when the former mayor was more or less active, but he's now retired and moved to Reading.
Yeah, so that's
Gupta.
Yash Gupta.
Yash Gupta,
yeah.
who is Indian, of course, and so
Yeah.
there's a slight difference there, because it's a kind of different. Well, we won't go into that, I think.
Yeah.
But anyway, yes, I think it's a great thing. What, do you have anything to say? You going to say something?
No, maybe just to you. I thought you were incredibly timid on your website, saying these films can't be screened. It sounded almost as if the copies hadn't arrived.
Well,
it should have actually been said they can't be screened because Thurrock Council refused the screening in their premises.
Okay, this is what we're going to do now, because really what it is that we are waiting for a written statement.
Is there any hope for a written statement?
I think it's unlikely.
Exactly.
So we now
Show
can
the
write, after this discussion, we can write what you have suggested.
Mm-hmm.
Is that, well, it's not up to the council because it's our own website.
Yeah.
So we're going to write that.
And the other proposal, if there is an interest in the local Southeast Asian community, I mean, these films can be shown within a private setting.
Yeah,
Yes,
you could.
yes.
It has a television. I've just come from there because it had Chinese karaoke.
Yeah, but I
On
don't want to
Friday.
push it into a private venue. It needs to be in a public
It should
venue.
be in the public venue.
So that's the point.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we should show it next year.
Do you think
try
the
and do
council
it.
will change their mind?
Depends how many hearts and minds we can change. Right now.
In the year when Britain is leaving the EU.
EU.
But that means we have to join the rest of the world.
All right, then. On that note, we have to say thank you. Well, thank you,
Thank you,
Chu.
Chu.
Thank you, Chu. Thank you.
Thank you for it.
Namaste.
Namaste.
All right, thank you, everybody.
All right.
Okay. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.